Heads, I talk about the topic. Tails, I don't. Don't know which one was heads or tails, but it's landed on something, so I'm going to talk about it. What's up, everyone? My name is Biku, and I am here with what happens if your water cooling loop leaks. Now, I know a lot of you are quite scared about this if you're just getting into water cooling and you're thinking, well, what if my loop leaks? Obviously, it's going to destroy my computer. Well, that can happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will happen. When your computer leaks, it usually means that there's a fail. If your computer doesn't leak from the start, it means that there's a failure in a fitting. This usually happens in right angle or bent fittings. Fittings that also in fittings that can turn or can rotate. So if you have if you have a lot of those fittings in your computer, then you should monitor your computer regularly to make sure that they're not failing. But it can also happen if you have not correctly installed tubing into your loop. Like if you haven't tightened down a compression fitting enough, or if your tubing wasn't properly over your fitting and then you tighten it down and it can just pop out, that can happen. So what do you do if this does happen? So first, you're going to have to turn your computer off, obviously. If your computer's off, it cannot get damaged. Next, you're going to have to drain your loop. Once your loop is drained, you're going to have to take apart, or you're going to have to take out where your loop was leaking, and you're going to have to inspect to see what is wrong. If it is just tubing that is not seated correctly, then you're just going to have to reseat the tubing, fill the loop, test your computer again, and you're fine. But if it is a failure in a fitting, then you are going to have to buy a new fitting, obviously, because that fitting will no longer work and it'll continue to leak. Next, you're going to want to put your loop back together, fill it with liquid, and run it for at least 24 hours without any power on to make sure that it is fine. Now, what happens if water got onto your computer while it was leaking? Well, you're going to have to power down the computer as soon as you find it. Doesn't matter what you're doing, just power down the computer as soon as possible. Take the component out, dry it, and as quickly as possible, and make sure there's no corrosion. If there's no corrosion and it dries fine, then your component should still work. If there is corrosion, there is a possibility that it will no longer work, and you're going to have to get a replacement. Once you get a replacement, it's just any other PC board, just put it in and rebuild your computer, and everything should work fine. So that has been what happens if your water cooling loop leaks. So I hope you all enjoyed the video, and goodbye.